Summerhill matter first. So let me know when you're ready there in the chambers.
We're ready.
Okay. So I'm going to assume we're recording, so I'll get my gavel out and make it official. And good morning. I'm going to go ahead and call this session of the City of Oak Harbor Hearing Examiner to order. For the record, today is August 23rd, 2023 at 9 a.m. We have two items on the agenda scheduled for 9, and sorry, if we can just mute everyone except me for the moment. I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I promise I'll direct traffic as needed, but I'm just trying to make sure we have a clear record. So there we go. Perfect. And hopefully folks can still hear me. Is that right? Excellent. I got the thumbs up. Okay. So again, August 23rd, 2023, City of Oak Harbor, and two items on the agenda for 9 o'clock. And the first one we're going to take is number 2306-0040. And this involves a request for approval of a conditional use permit to allow for the continued operation of an existing assisted living facility at 165 Southwest 6th Avenue here in Oak Harbor. And that's following a change in ownership and under the municipal code that requires review by the hearing examiner. So with that, my name is Andrew Reeves, and I serve as the hearing examiner for the City of Oak Harbor. And my role today will be to collect evidence in the form of exhibits and testimony to determine whether this proposal is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, zoning ordinances, critical areas ordinances, and then the specific requirements for approval of a conditional use permit under the municipal code. To that end, I received several documents I had an opportunity to review in advance of the hearing this morning. These include the staff report prepared by city staff, the original conditional use permit that was approved for this project back, I think, in 1985, the current request for a conditional use permit, which had multiple sub-exhibits, which we have as Exhibit 3 proposed, and then some information on zoning, various maps, and information on the notice that was provided in relation to the application and today's hearing. So I'm going to go ahead and admit those 5 exhibits into the record. Should anyone have additional exhibits they would like admitted into the record, let me know when it's your opportunity to testify, and I'll address admitting additional exhibits at that time. All testimony today will be under oath or affirmation. That's because were my decision to be appealed under our state's Land Use Petition Act, or LUPA, the recording of today's hearing, as well as the admitted exhibits and my decision, would serve as the foundation for any such appeal. Speaking of that, the order we typically follow is first I'll swear in city staff, who will give sort of an overview of the review process that led us to today, and sort of discussion of anything else that's come up that might not yet be covered in the staff report. And then after hearing from staff, we'll turn to the applicant representative, and that'll be their opportunity to present any additional information they feel that myself or members of the public should be aware of in advance of my making a decision. Then we'll see if there are any members of the public interested in testifying, and if so, they will have that opportunity. And following that, I'll turn back to the applicant representative and staff to respond to any such testimony. So I think with that, we can go ahead and get started, and I'll get, I believe, Ray Lindenberg on behalf of city staff sworn in to begin on this first matter. So is that correct, Mr. Lindenberg? You'll be presenting on behalf of staff today?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, I'll swear you in. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in testimony you give here today?
I do.
And if you could just state and spell your name for the audio.
Sure. My name is Ray Lindenberg, Lindenburg. I am senior planner for the City of Oak Harbor and the project manager for this case.
Great. And then my run through of sort of the exhibits track with what you were hoping I would review in advance of the hearing today?
Absolutely. You've probably covered most of what I was going to make as far as a presentation is concerned. Our ordinance is a bit unusual in that it doesn't allow for conditional uses to pass with the building or the use. It goes by the owner. That's something that we're going to be changing soon because this is too much. So what we're going to do today is Yeah,
Sorry, go
I will briefly go over what we have and a couple clarifications in the staff report and then just turn it over to you. So essentially what happened here, as you mentioned, it was approved in 1985 as a 53 unit assisted living facility. At some point from 1985 to 1986, while the project was under development, the applicant at the time requested to construct it as a 59 unit building. Staff approved that change, and so it is approved for 59 units. There is a reference in the staff report to 57 units. To be perfectly honest, for planning purposes, it doesn't matter. It is approved for up to 59 units. They have 59 units. Let's continue forward with that. If there is any wish to change that, to expand the building or change the configuration or add more units, et cetera, then they'll just need to come through and do a separate conditional use that reflects that new unit count or the changes that they have proposed. So in other words, what we're asking for here today is a continuation of an existing conditional use that's been in operation for 40 years almost now, and never had any issues that I'm aware of or anything in the file that indicates that there were complaints or concerns, problems, et cetera. All of the conditions of approval from the original conditional use were taken care of, including solid fence constructed along the backside of those single family homes to the south. And as far as I know, they've been a great neighbor to that community and an asset to our community. So I don't see any issues here.
Okay, just a couple questions for you, Mr. Lindberg. So first off, thank you for clarifying that ultimately the plan is to alter the code. As you noted at the outset, this is a little unusual, and I understand that. So thank you, though, for explaining that. The staff report does note no SEPA review was required. There wasn't a citation, but I assume this is WAC 197 11800. I don't know, one probably. It's a pre-existing use. Doesn't require, but is that what staff ultimately determined?
Correct. Yeah, there's no new development here, so no SEPA review required.
There you go. No changes on the ground, as it were.
Yes.
Okay, and then so the 57, 59, 53, I think were the three numbers I ultimately saw. Ultimately, staff has determined 59, even if it were less, would be fine. But 59 would be the high-end maximum amount of units and folks being served that would be allowed. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, which you did stress. I just want to make sure. And then there was reference in the initial materials from way back when about phased development, and unclear whether ultimately it happened or didn't happen. But at this point, we're confident, again, as you noted, no further development is occurring.
Yeah. So I'll share this real quick.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. So this is the development that we're discussing. At one point, these two properties were owned by the same owner, and phase two was going to be an addition onto this building. That obviously hasn't happened. And so at some point, those two were split, separate ownerships or separate parcels at least. So phase two hasn't happened. And if it were to happen, that would require a whole new review process at this point because it's long since expired.
Okay, so just that. Thank you for clarifying, because I think some of maybe the language and some of the earlier materials I wasn't fully clear about. But essentially, whatever phase two was going to be beyond 53, 7, or 9. It was a whole nother, 50 plus unit. So essentially, one thing happened quite a while ago. It's basically been mostly operational in continuous fashion or not for quite a long time. All that's happening now is changing ownership from the previous owner till now. Accurate?
Yep.
Excellent. And then as far as you're aware, no additional comments, nothing else has come in since this all began.
Correct.
In review, and then no major changes to the comprehensive plan or zoning code, anything to that effect that would impact this proposal since the application was deemed complete.
No, there have not.
Okay, and no one else from staff you intended on calling today?
Nope.
Okay, great. Well, I think then I have what I need from staff. So at this point, I believe we do have someone representing our applicant or applicants, or maybe even people representing both property owners. But I know Randy Nathanson had spoken earlier before we started, just to introduce herself. But I believe you're here on behalf of the applicant, and that would be Stoll Rivas. You're an attorney, is that right? Oh, can't hear you. We'll unmute.
The application was filed by John Santalucia, who is actually the counsel for the seller of the facility. My client is Schneer Schneerson, who is purchasing the facility. So technically, my client is who needs to get the new conditional use permit, since it doesn't run with the land, but John had taken the lead of filing the application for it.
And we can hear from both, but to be clear, are you an attorney, Randy?
I am an attorney. I am.
But that said, if you could just state and spell your name for the record. I'm not going to swear you in because you're an attorney. You're not testifying today, correct?
I'm not testifying. It's Randy, spelled R-A-N-D-I. Last name is Nathanson, Nathanson.
Great. And so just to be clear, you're representing the buyer.
That's correct. I'm representing the buyer.
Buyer/future property owner.
Correct.
Well, property owner and business owner, is that right?
That's right. Yes.
Okay. So with that, was there anything you wanted to add or clarify or make sense of? And again, I'll ask the same of John Lucia as well, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. But anything that seems amiss you wanted to talk about or clarify?
No, Ray accurately and completely covered all of the points. You know, we tripped over this odd provision in the Oak Harbor Municipal Code that requires us to apply for a new conditional use permit, but there's no intent to change the use, to change the configuration. You know, we just want to close on our acquisition of the property and continue to be a good neighbor.
I don't have any specific questions for you, but that said, I'm probably in the materials, which because of having to switch devices right before we started, I don't have the exhibits in front of me. They're on my other computer. But you represent which, I know it's the now buyer, but the name of the buyer at this point?
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I don't have my purchase agreement in front of me, and I'm out of town. I can pull it up in a moment if you just give me a second. I apologize.
It's okay. I'm confident it's either in the materials, or if not, you know, you can provide those, and we'll just add those as an exhibit, whatever.
Yeah, I can.
Hire purchase and sales agreement. You can just send an email to Ray Lindenberg, just so I have a clear record, so that we don't have to come back multiple times.
Yeah, happy to do that. So the entity that's actually going to take title to the property is Oak Harbor Holdings, LLC, and it's a Washington limited liability company. And then they'll have a lease to an affiliated entity called Summerhill Operations, LLC, which is also a Washington limited liability company. And Summerhill Operations will be licensed by the Washington Department of Social and Health Services to operate the facility. And we do have an application pending in front of them, and they're ready to issue the license, but we've had them on hold until we, completed this process and could close on the acquisition.
Duly noted. So essentially, you're taking care of everything. We know who the property owner is. The property owner will be leasing the building to the group that will be running, the facility, and the final sort of approval from the powers that be that ensure that assisted living facilities are appropriately run by the state, knows what's going on, and this is the sort of final step of the process, correct?
It is. Our purchase agreement contemplates a closing, I believe it's 3 business days after your decision is issued and final. So, yes. So we've just basically sort of again, put the state on hold on the licensure process until we were able to complete this land use process.
Understood. And you're just waiting on me at this point. Yeah, fully noted. So
No pressure.
No pressure at all. It's fine. No, I think I have everything I need. And again, the only thing I would, if we can make Exhibit 6, it doesn't need to be the PSA. Honestly, it can just be, if you can very clearly explain what you just did so that I have it as an exhibit. I'm just thinking 20 years from now, if something else happened, or 5 years or 2 years, I just want to make sure we don't have to come back through again and it's very clearly delineated. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to make more work for you. I promise. I'm confident you'll be able to get that to Ray Lindenberg today, and we'll just.
Yeah, whatever's easiest. We have 2 documents. We have a amended and restated purchase agreement and an amended and restated operations transfer agreement. Those identify the real property owner and the operator. Happy to provide copies of those to Ray. There's nothing, John, you don't have a reason to object to those being provided, do you?
No, not at all. As long as there was nothing proprietary or confidential. I know sometimes with contracts there are. So if there's not, feel free. We'll make those Exhibit 6, and that'll take care of everything I need.
Yeah, I don't think, John, are you okay with providing copies of those?
Yeah, Randy, I just want to make sure that you're comfortable making public record of potentially
Yeah.
the
purchase price.
Price, things like that, yeah.
Yeah, let me talk to Cher. If not, yeah, or we can just do the narrative explaining the transaction briefly. That's fine.
Randy, I'm okay. Sorry, it's Schneider here. I'm okay with it. The purchase price anyway is public record.
Okay, that's true. It gets reflected in the excise tax affidavit. So, okay, we'll just email Ray those 2 documents after this call.
Okay, and if that changes, ultimately what I need is just something where I can clearly in my decision explain where it went, where it's going. Nothing about price I need, obviously, so whatever works best, but that'll make my decision as clear as possible. Does that work?
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm happy to swear your client in if they wanted to add anything.
Here, do you want to add anything about just your plans for the building?
We're planning on. Well, good morning, everybody. We're just planning on being.
If you're going to say anything, you have to be sworn in.
Okay.
Okay, I'm envisioning your hands up. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in testimony you give here today?
Yes, sir.
And if you could state and spell your name clearly for the audio.
It's a little complicated, but it's SCHN like Nancy, EUR.
So you can walk by.
That's the first name, and the last name is similar, SCHN like Nancy, ERSON.
Okay, Schneerson, got it.
Correct. And good morning, all. And we're planning on actually accepting the Medicaid population, which is something that is sorely lacking in Oak Harbor and in Island County. The building has not run completely full probably in a couple of years, so our plans are to take in a population which is currently having a very hard time finding placement. We've spoken to the state, and we're planning on being good neighbors and just continuing the Goodman Group's tradition.
Okay. And so you followed along, and that number of, I think it was 59 is what we settled on. That sounds accurate to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. I don't believe I have any specific questions for you, but appreciate you taking the time to be here today.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So I know we have now the seller at this point, their representative, and that would be John Santa Lucia. I'll let you pronounce your name so I don't mess it up. Also an attorney, I believe?
Yes, it's John Santa Lucia.
Lucia, all right. And I won't swear you in because, again, you're an attorney not providing testimony, but if you want to just fill us in on where things stand.
As Randy indicated, I represent the seller. And again, I took the lead on the initial application because we were the title holder and thought we should do so. We were possibly required to do so. But I have nothing really to add. As long as the purchaser is happy, that's what we want to get to, the point where conditional use permit is issued in their favor, and it allows them to proceed to operate the property as they currently are, actually. So we're looking forward to it.
Excellent. Great. Thank you. And did you have anyone else from your team you were hoping to call on?
No, I don't think so. Paul Teagle is here on behalf of the purchaser, but or the seller. I'm sorry, but Paul, do you have anything to add at this point?
I guess you can swear me in, I guess. And
I was going to say, if so, I'll swear you in. And so do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here this morning?
yes, I do.
And if you could just spell your name for us.
Paul, P-A-U-L, and last name is Teagle, T-E-A-G-L-E.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
And I would just concur with the items presented in the testimony of Mr. Lindenberg that in the period, we've operated the facility there in the community. We've had good neighbors and been good neighbors, and there's never been any issues with the use or operations, and we're excited to have somebody be able to continue that, and like Schnur said, to be able to serve people of Oak Harbor. So
Great. Okay. Well, thank you. I don't have any further specific questions for you. And one other thought from Attorney Lucia.
Yes, I just wanted to add one thing. I just wanted to thank City Planner Lindenberg for really being responsive and helpful to us on this whole process. He was answering many emails and questions from us, and it was most helpful. So we really want to thank him.
Excellent. All right. Duly noted. So at this point, I just want to see if it doesn't appear we have anyone in the room, but I'll check. There in the public hearing space. Doesn't seem anyone's come, but.
We don't have anybody in council chambers.
Thank you. And then I see a couple names. I believe Nitty is here on the next matter, and the only other name I see is a Nolan Grunska. Curious if that's someone.
Nolan is a new staff member here. He's our new assistant planner, yes.
Okay, so unrelated to this particular matter, and then I believe no one else that we're aware of. Does that seem accurate, Ray?
That is correct, I believe, yes.
Okay, well, based on what you've heard, did you have anything further you wanted to add?
No, I think we're good to go. It was a pleasure working with both sides of the transaction here, and so I hope that everything works out and can continue forward with that.
Well, as Mr. Lindenberg noted, I think the long-term intent is to change the municipal code so that, when a use changes hands, as it were, we don't come before the hearing examiner. So this one, having reviewed the record, again, noting we're just going to get one other document in just because I want to make sure it's very clear. But I see no issues, and my intent is certainly to issue a decision approving this request for a conditional use permit with the conditions that have been recommended, and plan on doing so here in the next couple weeks as quickly as I can. I know you all are waiting on this final step. So that is certainly my intent and my plan. And if only they were all this straightforward, that would be great. But for the many folks for this first matter that participated, we thank you for taking the time to be here. And with that, I think we can conclude our first matter, again noting that I'll leave it to our two attorneys to sort of coordinate just getting whatever they want as Exhibit 6 that just makes it easy and clear in the record as to what the entities are, just so that I don't mess that up in my decision, so you all can move forward with the transfer. But with that, we can end our hearing today. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, and I don't mean end the hearing. We have another matter about to start, and then another matter at 10. So
We will leave you on ours. Thank you for your help with this process.
Thank you, both
Bye-bye.
attorneys and the others involved. Okay, so with that, I think let me just switch my legal pads here. But The second item on the agenda is actually quite similar. And I think, Mr. Lindberg, we ready to move to number 2?
I am ready to go when you are. Sorry, guys.
I'm ready. So this is going to be number 2306-0041, involving a request for approval of a conditional use permit to allow the continued operation of a child daycare center serving up to 35 children on property at 1162 Southwest Fort Nugent Avenue. And like the matter we just heard, this is involving a change in ownership, but a use that has existed for quite some time. So as noted previously, hearing examiner Andrew Reeves, and I'll collect evidence in the form of exhibits and testimony. And in this particular matter, 5 exhibits were provided to me in advance. That includes a staff report prepared by city staff, the original CUP materials and decision from 2005, the application materials for the current application, zoning and comp plan information, and then information on notice that was provided for the application and today's hearing. So I'm going to admit those, and we will just hop right in. And Mr. Lindberg was sworn in earlier, but if you can just introduce yourself, just in case anyone new joined, please do, and we'll move right ahead.
Certainly. My name is Ray Lindenberg, Senior Planner for the City of Oak Harbor, working on the staff report and the presentation here for Children's Academy Daycare change of ownership. I did want to note that you saw Nolan had joined us. He is assisting with some of these staff reports and some of the review that we're doing now, so you'll see his name probably again in the future. He was very helpful with doing some research and writing some of the staff report information. So that said, again, this is a similar situation, a new ownership of an existing conditional use business that consists of a daycare with a capacity of 35 children. As noted previously with the other item as well, the maximum is 35. They don't have to have 35. They can have 30, or they could have 33, or however many in between. But the maximum is 35. That was designated because of parking and space constraints and those sorts of things. I know that the state has certain requirements as far as square footage and all that sort of thing as well. So they're going to be further limited in that situation, and it will be up to the applicant and the owner to make sure that they are in compliance with those particular standards. So essentially what we have is an existing building that's been there for quite some time. Again, we have not had any complaints. We don't know of any issues, zoning concerns with the site. I don't recall there ever being traffic or parking situation problems. I do drive by there on a fairly regular basis and haven't seen any kind of problems with that. And so we don't see any reason at all to not approve a continuation of this conditional use. The original one was from 2005, and we provided as much information as we felt was appropriate for that one. And, you know, kind of the same concerns from a conditional use from not quite 20 years ago, just as far as parking, drop-off, traffic, et cetera. And like I said, not much has changed out there, so we're comfortable with moving forward with that.
Okay, and then, so like the last one, there's other permits and requirements from the state. Actually, both might be DSHS. Now, I think one of those departments changed. Doesn't matter. It's not the scope of what I have to ever deal with, but for purposes of looking at this from a land use perspective, 35 children is the max capacity that was approved and would continue to be approved, and that's what you've analyzed this under, and no issues there. Same question as before with SEPA, I assume, because there's no actual change in what's occurring, no new buildings, no new structures, no development, exempt under WAC 187-11-800. No major alterations to the comp plan or zoning as well, since this one was deemed complete, correct?
Correct.
That was the question, finally, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
That was yes, yeah. Okay, and then in terms of the conditions that have been proposed, there is reference to, you know, requirements for building and fire codes being met prior to occupancy, but my understanding is this is still
operating, or is that
Yeah,
just,
and I could be wrong on this. This is not my particular expertise, but I believe that they have a regular inspection with the fire department. Building codes, should be fairly standard, but I believe the fire department will come out and do inspections on fire extinguishers and access routes, things like that. So.
Hey, this is
I'll fill you in just in a sec, I promise, we'll get there. Give me 1 sec. Just wanted to make sure I understood that, this is ongoing. I know the language sometimes gets borrowed from previous, but, I think then, again, quite straightforward, and the number of exhibits was 5, and no additional comments, nothing further is coming, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any other members of staff you intended on calling on?
Not today, no.
Okay, I think then with that, we can move to our applicants or their representative, and I believe this is Nidhi Gupta.
yes.
Okay, I'm going to swear you in, okay? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
I swear that.
Thank you, and can you just clearly spell your name for the audio?
My name is Ashish Batwara. I'm representing Nidhi Gupta. She's my wife.
Oh, okay, sorry, this is someone else. This is who, if you can clearly...
Ashish Batwara.
Batwara, okay, sorry. And you had, I believe I have ASHISH and then BATWARA. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. Yep.
Great. And I know your name from the materials, so thank you for being here. And go ahead with any clarification or thoughts you wanted to share.
Yeah, I'm the applicant and the buyer. And I think you talked about fire marshal. The state fire marshal visited the facility on July 31st and approved it. So we are clear from the state fire marshal. The DCYF, which is the Department of Children, Youth and Families, who provides the license, they already visited the facility on they already visited the facility on on August 7th. Okay, and August 7th. And they are pretty much in line to approving the license on the new name. Okay.
So
yeah.
Sorry, just to be clear, Mr. Batwara. So essentially, at this point, you're just waiting on this final permit from me, from City of Oak Harbor, in terms of land use, and then you're ready to move forward. Is that right?
Absolutely, that's it. So basically, just in the process of final things from city.
Okay, and did everything you heard Mr. Lindberg and myself discuss all make sense? Clearly, you clarified that what's going on with state permits and the fire marshal, but other than that, everything tracked?
Mr. Lindberg has been very helpful and very supportive. Hats off to him. Honestly, I mean, he's awesome.
He's going to get a big head with all the compliments today, but his boss is listening too. David Cool's in there, and when we're done today, Lindenberg is going to be arguing for a raise, but we'll talk about that off record a different day. But I don't have any further questions based on my review. As with the last matter, this is unique in some respects to Oak Harbor, and in a lot of jurisdictions, there wouldn't even be a permit for this, like a big process like this. So my intent is based on everything I've seen to issue a decision approving this request for a conditional use permit related to transfer of ownership of this property. So the intent is you'll get a decision to that effect here in the next couple of weeks. Okay.
Thank you very much.
And I didn't want to jump the gun. As far as I know, we don't have anyone else that's joined us to testify related to this proposal, as far as I can tell, correct? Mr. Lindenberg and staff.
Yeah, I'm not in the room.
I know you're not. I didn't see anyone in the room, but
we don't have anybody additional.
There's
Excellent.
nobody in council chambers either.
You guys are lonely there. I get it. Okay. Well, I think then we can conclude our second item. Our third item is actually scheduled for 10, I believe, on the notice materials. So that is gives folks a break. We've got about 22 minutes, and I'll step away, and Mr. Lindenberg can talk to his bosses about, that raise. So with that, I'll come back at 10 o'clock, okay?